Now, let's be honest with ourselves. If that many people watch and enjoy your video in the first few days of it being uploaded, and then the tasty queen herself, Rie, sees the video, shouts me out on Instagram, gives her approval of my attempts, you're gonna do a part 2. It has to happen. But what is going on, peeps? Welcome back to another Buzzfeed test. Like I said, this is part 2 of last week's video. Rie's favorite Japanese recipes. Last week I did 3. This week we are doing 3 more. The first one being the Japanese omaraisu egg omelet over rice. God help us, based on the last time I tried the omaraisu. Then some curry udon soup. And for dessert, some of these mochi donuts, which are a very fun and delicious looking shape, so that should be interesting. A lot of you guys requested that I do a second part in last week's video, so thank you to those of you who did. So let's get right into it. Now before we cook anything today, I did have to hop over to Amazon once again to buy a few things I didn't have. Starting with tofu. Yes, we've gotten to a point now where I am so lazy where I have to buy something as simple as tofu online. Anyways, I also grabbed some shira tamako powder, which is apparently like a rice flour. It's supposed to be super fine and good for donuts. I also grabbed some stuff like cake flour and curry seasonings, just some simple stuff I didn't have already. First up on the list today is the omaraisu. After my last attempt, I told myself I would never try anything like this again, but this is Rie's recipe. I'm praying it'll be a little bit easier. But in order to make it, you're gonna wanna grab yourself some chicken breasts and a white onion, some salt and pepper, a few eggs, some rice, and some ketchup, oddly enough. I quickly just dice up my onion as well as cook some rice. And when I say I cooked rice, I really just mean my mom cooked it for me. We have established this, let's move along. I also just quickly diced up my chicken breasts into some tiny bite-sized pieces. According to the video, I'm only gonna need less than half of this one chicken breast, which is odd, but it is a small portion, so let's get started. I first threw down a touch of vegetable oil in my frying pan. I let that heat up for a bit before adding in my chicken and allowing it to get a nice white color and some browning around all the edges. And then just tossed in some of my diced up onion. I made a quick reference to this last week, but a lot of the recipes and the stuff in this video is very loose. Meaning that some of the ingredients aren't really labeled. Some of the cooking times and temperatures and stuff are just up in the air for me. So I'm taking a lot of guesses in this video. Let's hope it goes as good as last week. But as you can see, I had to season my rice with ketchup. I have never done anything like this in my life. It's a little bit odd and unsettling, but it's ketchup, it tastes good. So with rice, maybe it'll come out okay. But I set that aside while I started with my eggs. I cracked 2 eggs along with a drip of whole milk. I gave it a quick mix before adding it into my plastic wrap. Pause. Who knew you could put plastic wrap in boiling water? Apparently if the box says microwave safe or anything like that, you can put it in hot water. I have not known this. Thank you, Rie, for enlightening me. Once I thought I had this first one cooked, I tried to mold some of my rice and plop that out on my plate, and then carefully tried to flip the egg out. No. Just based off what happened, I think A, I didn't have enough eggs, and B, I didn't cook them for long enough because that egg wall should be pretty thick so it holds its shape. So for the second try, I added 3 eggs this time, a little bit more milk. I gave it over 10 minutes of cooking time. I tried to slosh it around in the water a bit so it evenly cooked. And on the second attempt... Okay. I give up. As we have already established, people, I cannot make any kind of omaraisu Japanese omelet. I just can't do it. I don't know why. I have to be doing something wrong, clearly, but I'm just gonna put it to the side. I've already wasted a half dozen eggs on this video, so let's just move on to recipe number 2. Next up in this video is going to be the curry and sliced pork udon noodle soup. And for this, I grabbed some boneless spare ribs. I don't really know what kind of pork cut they used. I should be able to cut this pretty thinly, just like they had in the video. But I also grabbed some udon noodles and cornstarch, some of our tofu and flour, some water, some scallions, our dashi broth base from last video, and our curry powder. And as always, I started by chopping up my vegetables, my scallion. I also tried to slice my pork as thin as I could possibly get it with this super sharp knife. I honestly think the only way I could get this any thinner was if I used a deli meat slicer. I also made some dashi broth. This is just made with a few cups of boiling water and that base, which still smells like fish food a little bit to me, but it does taste really good. It's the base for miso soup, and that's done and out of the way. And lastly, before you start to prepare this, you have to fry up some tofu. Let's just say, thank God, I Googled how to do this, because if you asked me to just make it on the spot, I would cut it up and put it in a big pot of hot oil. But no, I'd be incredibly wrong and have quite a mess. You're supposed to cut them up into strips, dry them out as best as you can with some paper towels, and then just with a little bit of oil in a hot pan, basically just fry up each side, try to get some good color. This will give the tofu some flavor as well as some structural integrity when we put it into our soup. Makes a lot of sense, David. So let's start preparing this dish now. I threw together some of my dry ingredients that consist of some cornstarch, flour, and curry powder, as well as a little bit of water. Again, I don't know what like the 1 and the 2 and the 1.5 mean. Is it teaspoons? Is it tablespoons? I have no idea. All I do know is this was incredibly watery. It did not look anything like theirs did in the video, so I added in a bit more cornstarch and flour. I tried to get mine to mimic the consistency of theirs in the video. But once I thought I was almost there, you can begin to cook your pork. In the same pan, I threw down some more oil and that sliced beef. I gave it a couple minutes to cook a bit before throwing in my scallions. I noticed with this recipe, it's a lot of like adding some stuff, letting it come back to a boil, adding some more stuff. It's just a lot of patience, but it will be worth it in the long run, hopefully. I added some stuff like some soy sauce, some mirin from last video, a little bit of sugar. I let it come back to a simmer. And you want to finish it off with that curry cornstarch slurry mix. This will supposedly thicken it up a lot. This smells amazing right now, and I think it's just about ready to go. So in my bowl, I threw down some of my cooked udon noodles, and then a big old scoop of my curry pork mix. This has a lot to live up to because the last udon dish was amazing, but we do have one more recipe to make before we can try it out. The donuts. I love the backstory on this one, that it's from like a big Japanese chain and she's remaking them. I love that for some reason. But in order to make them, I grabbed some cake flour and potato starch, some tofu and a box of that sweet rice flour, a little bit of salt and sugar, and some baking powder. That's pretty much it. I'll be completely upfront and honest with you guys. I'm a little bit skeptical of a tofu-based donut. It doesn't have any water, really any other liquid besides the liquid from the tofu. So I mixed it up the best that I could. It's a very odd consistency of a dough. Not like anything I've ever made before, but enough with the skepticism. It is Rie we're talking about here. So you're gonna wanna make little like quarter-sized balls in your hand, basically. I used 5 for each donut I was constructing. I placed them on a piece of parchment paper and then dipped them in my 320-degree oil. Once again, I have learned something new. I did not know you can put parchment paper in steaming hot oil. If you rewind about a year, I also didn't know you couldn't put wax paper in the oven, so I haven't gotten very far. I gave this a few minutes on each side to brown up. I eventually fished the parchment paper out of the oil without splashing it all up my arm. And once you give these a few minutes to cool down, I just grabbed some milk chocolate meltables and some white chocolate chips. 30-second intervals in the microwave. I'm sure you guys know how to melt chocolate. I gave my 4 donuts a dip in each type of chocolate, finish them off with some sprinkles, and finally we can give all 3 recipes that we've made today a try. Listen, in my defense, whether it was on top or on the side, it's gonna taste the same, alright? It's just eggs and rice. I honestly don't know what it is. Like, it's a very hard dish, but it seems doable. I don't know. Brie, I'm sorry if you're watching. I know this is an abomination to your recipe. You gotta teach me how to do it. I don't know. If it's any consolation, ketchup rice is not that bad. I actually kind of like it. If you think about it, you put ketchup on your eggs in the morning, and if you had like a nice little piece of toast next to this, it'd be good. Next up is our curry udon soup. I don't know that I classify this as a soup. It's a lot of like pasta and meat, but it smells so good. And I never have really had tofu, to be honest. I don't know what it tastes like. I don't know what it's supposed to taste like, so this will be interesting. That pork is so good. What the heck? The beef last week was like kinda tough and like not tender at all, but this is so good. I also just love udon now too. Since I bought the 8 packs worth in last week's video, I think I've eaten about 3 of them now. This pork is definitely the winner in this one though. I would make just that sauce and the pork as a meal. This one gets a 8.7 out of 10. Now this is definitely the one I'm most looking forward to, but also most worried about. It's a tofu based donut. I don't know how that's gonna compute in a dessert. This is so good. What in the world? That was not what I was expecting at all. Imagine like 5 Zeppelis, like, or big balls of funnel cake, like stuck together with chocolate on top of it. Wow. That's exactly what it tastes like. Like, you would get it at a fair or something, but the white chocolate on top makes it 10 times better. Rie, if you're watching this one too, I am so impressed. How often is it that we get 6 recipes in a row that are all amazing on this channel? All 6. 3 from last week and 3 from today were good. I'd probably make them again, minus the omaraisu, unless I find out how to make it. But damn, good job. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's part 2 video. If you did, leave me a big like. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see me do next week. Follow me on Instagram, on Twitter. Look out for the next poll. It'll probably be here on YouTube again once I do another one. Other than that though, have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you right back here next time.